Unfazed by the midday sun, our intrepid inventor goes in search of food. So, a bit of a mixed day. It's hot, which is good, but there's zero wind. I took a reasonably brave choice this morning to leave. I think I left about 7:30 because there was a bit of puff. I thought I could utilise that to get south. I did get a couple of nautical miles south in quite a few hours. It was mainly going west, mainly going east, mainly going west, not going south. However, I did know I had the option in the afternoon when the tide turns that I could just drift down on that, and that's what I'm doing. So there's no engine, there's no sails, I'm just lolling around. At the moment I'm doing about 1 knot south, but it will pick up and it will drift me into west of Jersey. When I get close, I'll obviously put the engine on and pilot into my anchorage. But the afternoon is just pretty slow, so I'm taking it easy, doing a few boat jobs. But yeah, it is what it is. So I'm just having my breakfast in the sunshine. I will be doing more about the places I'm visiting in later videos. The problem I have at the moment is I'm wrestling against 2 things. One of them is Schengen time. I've only got 90 days in the EU and I need them for Galicia, Portugal and further down in Spain. And obviously if I turn left into the Med when I get there, definitely need to go and hide out in Morocco and those kind of places, recuperate the days, and then I can continue in the Med, or whether I continue down south to the Canary Islands and maybe Cape Verdes and then go across Atlantic to the Caribbean. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. And then the second thing I'm fighting is the Bay of Biscay. That sea scares the hell out of me. I've done it once before in very good weather with 4 of us and it was quite rolly. It wasn't anything particularly bad, but I know how bad it can get, particularly in this time of year. So I'm going into autumn, which is the storm season. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to move at a clip. Again, I'm constrained here because of the tides. There's absolutely no point trying to fight against 22 feet, 25 foot tides. So there's only 6 hours a day really that I travel. So, an absolute disaster of a night's sleep last night again. I know I keep saying this word, disaster. I made good way from Jersey down to almost mainland France. I basically went to where I wanted to for once. It's on a small island just off the coast, Ile de Briat, I think it's called. It was getting dark, so I picked the first anchorage that looked tenable. Basically it was 6 meters, lowest astronomical tide, but it was a posted stamp size plot that I could pick. It was 12 meters I think I anchored in, which is a bit much for me, and it wasn't high tide either, so I think it went up to 18-20 meters, so I've only got 60 meters of chain, so I was pushing the scope really. And again, right next to rocks, but the problem was, there was no wind, it wasn't particularly rolly, the ocean looked quite calm, but every microwave was bashing and amplifying the rock of the boat. I could get 6 small waves, each pushing the boat at the right time to make it go even further. So it was an absolute buckaroo ride. I got up 20 to 30 times to try and lash things down that were banging and rocking, and then my pitch was all over the place. My anchor drag meant I was doing 30 metres that way, 20 metres this way, always at a different angle and always making something bang and rattle. So I'm very, very tired. Probably not the best time to be making decisions, but there's a little bit more of an east wind, so I'm going to carry on going east just a little bit. There's nothing down that way for ages. I've got some breakages which I'll show you in a minute, and I need to get into a marina and a place of cosmopolitan influence so I can get some spares. There's nothing around here, it's very provincial. So I noticed this last night about 3 o'clock in the morning. The lifelines on the left, on the port side, are loose, and these ones are obviously coming apart, so it's a critical job. I need to get to a place where I can get these swapped out. Here we go. Visit by the Kraken. Woo! Hey hey! Reminds me, I haven't played Minesweeper in a while. Whatever kind of seafood is in there, it doesn't stand much chance, does it? So an overhang on a winch happens when you're using these kind of old-fashioned, cheaper, non-self-tailing winches. So what happens is you need to get a couple of wraps around your winch to get some purchase. 2 is not enough here, I need to get 3 on and then start winching. But what happens, partly because it's at an angle, it's facing down, it starts wrapping over itself. You know, you're looking up to see what effect you're having on the sail, and then the next thing you know, you've got these wraps, and because it's under massive tension, all I've got then is this play from here to here, which is around about a foot, to get a bowling on here, pull it back to a winch to try and give me some freedom to use a marlin spike to undo it. And sometimes it can take ages, literally hours. So it's not a good thing. I need to get this sorted. So on the Rod Stewart Kicker Boomdy Bang, this is what broke. A wire like that had ground its way through and it snapped. Slightly concerning because you can also see it occurring on the mast. So that shackle is slowly grinding its way through that attachment, and all that's on there is 2 reefing lines in the main sheet. So I'm going to swap that shackle out with a slightly bigger one. Ta-da! So the purpose of a block is to rerun a line at a different angle. It obviously is under pressure and just takes some load, but it shouldn't be the main load bearing part of a line run. So I'm slightly concerned that this small shackle here is going to be involved in the main halyard, which does come under, you know, massive pressure. What I'm going to do is this shackle I've taken off there. I'm going to repurpose it. I'm going to show it some love with the tappy stick because it's slightly bent. I had a bit of a fun and games getting that out, but I think I can reuse it. I don't want to reuse it, but it's all I've got at the moment, and I want to make sure, well, my main priority is not to have these reruns overhangs on this winch here. So the plan is reroute that to here using this block, that shackle, then I've got a nice angle to this winch and it won't give me the overhangs. Well, sorry to say, neither of those ideas worked. The old shackle can be used. The only other one I've got on board is this brass one. You shouldn't mix brass and steel, so it was only going to be a temporary solution, but then that won't fit on there. So failure this morning, but I am on my way to Roscoff. I can pick up some new supplies. So passing the time watching my dinghy surf. Currently going downwind, which is always a bit odd because you're travelling with the wind, so there's no wind sound. And you know, you can see white caps, everything. We've got about 4 and a few bit knots. Other observations, as you can see, everything's tied on, tether for the wind vane. So when I take that on and off, it doesn't go flying. Same for the rudder on the back of the hydro vane. Tether. And then this is my very, very crude method of locking off the steering wheel. Because when the hydro vane's working, that's that kitey thing going left and right, operating its own rudder, you don't want the ship's main rudder moving. I eventually found these two things that do the job perfectly. I can unclip them very quick. I was tying it on and using sail ties, but when you see an obstruction in the way and you want to change course quickly, you can't. These carabiners I can just unclip very, very quickly. A normal dinghy does have these rings either side. They also have a bigger one here, and that's, you know, you run it through all 3 of them, but that's what takes the main weight of the dinghy when you're towing it. This one, because of its cheapness, economical standing within the market, it doesn't have this, so I was very worried. I mean, people have said that these have just come flying out, and in fact you can see I've only used it for a week and it's showing stress there. So what I've done is wrapped it up like a Christmas present to try and spread the load a bit. So I've run a line through these underneath the bottom to add some drag. Then I've wrapped it round the back here, both sides, and put a reef knot there. So that is basically what I'm using to lift and carry when I'm on the beach, and hopefully spread the load and take some off here.
Un potentiel éventuellement pour aller faire un tour sur Erquy. Faut que ravitaille, j'ai pas le kérosène pour aller. Ampan. Any vessel in the vicinity of Opal Bay able to assist a 10-metre yacht broken down at anchor with a tow to St Helier. A call, Jersey Coast Guard, channel 82, channel 82, Jersey Coast Guard coordinated.
Jersey Coast Guard, this is Lady Mia, over. Little bit of local drama here in Jersey. I heard this guy about 90 minutes ago on the radio called out pan on channel 16, saying he was at anchor but his engine had failed. Could he get a tow back to St Helier, which is only about 2 miles away. So yeah, I find it odd really that the Coast Guard do kind of act as the RAC of the sea. They help people out whatever distress they've got, you know, because I think this is pretty minor, to be honest. But yeah, there's a couple of people on that boat spending their time getting this guy back to St Helier. Ooh, take your hands off that big stick, Gandalf, you dirty old wizard. So when I was in the Caribbean sailing early in the year, there was a very interesting Kiwi skipper I worked with. And he'd been all over the world sailing and adventuring. He'd built some hobbit houses in New Zealand, sold them and bought a boat and went sailing for 5 years. And he told me that when I sail the Mediterranean, get a big bow and arrow, and when you come to a place like this, go hunting for boar. Maybe I will one day, but at the moment I want to get my spearfishing and sea fishing sorted first, and maybe I can spit roast some local animals later. What a charming French village I'm walking through. Wonder what the locals would think if they knew there was an Englishman carrying a bag of his own poo through their town. Disgusting, I know, but I'm just telling you the way I operate. Yep, it could go offshore, and often it does. But the thing is, there are rules about this thing. Some countries say 3 miles, others 9, some 12. The French, however, haven't specified. They're still trying to get their shit together. It's here, my precious. Keep going, Frodo. Right, so I learned the RIA's 8 syllabus knots. I thought that's going to be enough. I don't want to spend the rest of my life learning new knots. 8, it's got to be enough. 3 I use on a daily basis, all day, every day. The fender hitch, I know that's a laughable, easy, simple knot, but as long as the working line is under tension, it doesn't go anywhere. I use it all the time because it's quick and easy to make and undo. The bowline, because it's so strong, and then the reef knot for lashing things all the time. However, when I was getting towed back last week, I think in Shoredburg, by 2 very friendly fishermen, because I was rowing back to the boat and it was taking a very, very long time, they kindly come and picked me up and motored me back in. This French fisherman did this really, really quick knot when he put my painter back on the boat, and I thought, maybe if I just pull this line it'll come undone, and it did. So I've learnt a new one. It's called the painter hitch. Nothing to do with the painters. The painter's the rope that attaches to your dinghy that you tow it with. Doesn't have to be a dinghy. If you're going shopping with your donkey, you know, or if you're taking your husband, you need to get your nails done, you just want to tie them up outside, use this. So you've got 2 parts to the rope. You've got the rope and then you've got the loose end. Other words are available and better, but I'll call it the rope and the loose end. So take the rope with a good bit of working line, make what's called a bite, a cue, call it anti-bearing, I don't care. Then what you do, whatever you tie it onto, come here John, I'm going to get my nails done, pull it over, take the rope, make another cue, push it through, take the working bit, make another cue, push it through, and just cinch it up. Looks a right mess. Your husband John's trying to get away, get to the pub, he can't. You come back and you go, come on love, it's time to go. Works like magic. And now a fork in the road, decision to be made, but at least my fluent French will help me. Do we go me bois un trabadon, verlaces de bec le, or the other way? If in doubt, always go uphill. Careful when driving, blob monsters crossing. Well, I've been tabbing for about 90 minutes now. I'm still carrying a bag of my own poo. There's no bins anywhere. I might have to set fire to it and put it through somebody's letterbox. No, I won't do that. I might bury it like we did in the army. But at least in the army they give you a shovel. I'd have to do it with my bare hands. Okay, I'll give you a poo update later. Okay, it's cheeky, but I'm going to do it. So, in way of an explanation to the dear wife Mia, I said to her, look, the kids are growing up. I've been a corporate slave for 20 years. I can't think of anything else better to do with my time than go and see the world. And the reason I want to see the world is, look, I want to know what is a defining feature of a place, whether it's a volcano, work of art, a cathedral, whatever it is. What has it got to offer? What is it that's made it famous or enduring? And just try and experience it. But I already knew before I set off, it isn't that. When you actually go and travel, particularly when you're on your own, it's nothing to do with what you see, it's about the people you meet. And today was just proof of that yet again. So I walked for 90 minutes to get rid of my bag of poo, and I was looking for this supermarché to get some more tinned food for the boot. And I just walked into a bar because I was bloody thirsty. It was a hot day today. And a lovely gentleman started talking, no idea what he's going about because he was French. And he just started chatting. And I gestured when he gestured, he frowned, I frowned, he laughed, I laughed. And we were getting on like a house of fire. No idea what he was talking about. I probably interpreted, I was going to say the word understood, but I interpreted every 30th word. So I knew when he said ocean, I knew when he said fish, I knew when he said police. So I thought this was about the bag of poo that I'd left, and he was an inspector. But anyway, so I, you know, every now and again I was taking out Translate and typing in what I thought I'd heard, and I got a few impressions of what he was saying. So it turned out to be a bar that sold this, it seems to be big in this region, this Trappist beer that's 1,000-year-old and it's 6.7% strength. Absolutely beautiful, wonderful beer, try it. Anyway, so a pint of that I bought, he buys me a pint, obviously I buy him another pint, so I've now had the equivalent of almost 2 bottles of wine on an empty stomach after a 2-hour tab. Anyway, so we're getting on like a bloody house on fire. Turns out, he tells me his life story. So he's from Brest, which is just round the corner, something like 60 miles away. He talked about it as if it was a different country. He'd worked in Paris, which is Paris, and Monaco. But he loves it here because it's so quiet. He likes to go to the pub, fish, and go to the pub. And he thinks that that's what everybody should do. Just chill the F out. He didn't like it the French and English are fighting over the fishing all the time. So just chill out, go to the pub, relax. That was his message. But what a great guy. 90 minutes of chatting and drinking stupid beer. What a day. So that one lonely building you can see at the top of the beach is where I'm going for steak tonight. I've been eating mainly tinned food and cereal every day for the last couple of weeks. So some nice cold beer and a bavette and frites. Ooh. So the only restaurant on the beach for miles, you think Idiot Chops here would realise it's going to be fully booked, and of course it is. But I looked hungry and I smiled and we chatted, and finally she said, yeah, I can fit you in for one table at 8:30, which will be probably dark by then, but I don't care, I need to feed. So having a couple of beers, waiting for tea food. Alone and adrift. Drifting. Wilson!
Alors maintenant, on va voir celui qui a fait les œufs pour rentrer en haut.
Cool, look at the winches on that.